Would you choose to have a high energy life or a low energy life? I know we're all different and we have different characters and different personalities, but everybody I know would choose to have a high energy life. My name is Donna Brand, and I want to share with you the step up and step out process for energizing your life and stepping into being a full player in the game of life. Now, what often happens that brings our energy down is we have feelings, we have thoughts, very often thoughts of guilt, which is where we feel we've disappointed someone else or they think we've disappointed them, or feelings of shame where we feel like we've disappointed ourselves. And then there's a disconnect between those thoughts and feelings and what we feel able to do about it. And when there's a disconnect, whoop, the energy just goes down, sinks down. So here's a very quick energizing method or approach for you to use on a physical level to get things going for you. I call it buzz it up. What you do is you just take your two fists and put them up near the top of your chest where Tarzan used to thump to get his immune system going, and you buzz like a bee. Bzzz. Now, don't you feel energized? Try it along with me. Bzzz. Okay, now, I know it looks silly, and in fact, that's part of the way to energize yourself, is to bring a bit of silliness, a bit of laughter, a bit of fun into your life. But what you're also doing is jiggling all your cells and getting them alive again, getting them moving, because movement is a key part in raising our energy. I'm introducing to you as well the step-by-step method of stepping up and stepping out as a 5-part process for you also to energize in a much bigger way to, as I say, become a full player in the game of your own life. But first I want to introduce to you the Vitruvian Man. You might recognize this drawing by Leonardo da Vinci. Obviously this is my rendition, not quite as good I might say. Now, you might recognize that the Vitruvian Man was Leonardo's version of what he would call the ideal proportions of a human being. In my case, my version of Vitruvian Man, woman, is the ideal representation of a human being because we use our head or our minds, we use our hearts, and we use our bodies. And we use our mind, our hearts, and our bodies in order to think, feel, and do. And when we think and feel and then take action in alignment with each other, we are much more able to step into a position of our power. This is where we represent ourselves as a masterpiece in the making. Now, the step up and step out process actually has you in alignment, your thinking, your feeling, and your doing, at the center of the feelings and thoughts that you might have, and gives you a way to energize yourself by taking action in order to bring that full circle. Let me introduce you to the first step of the step up and step out process, and that is to identify several things in your life that make you mad, that make you sad, or make you glad. That's step number one. Just start noticing what makes you mad, what makes you sad, and what makes you glad. That's step number one. Now, in my case, one thing that makes me mad is how we treat our veterans when they return from a conflict or war zone, particularly those with post-traumatic stress disorder. That makes me mad. And I'll tell you in a minute some of the actions I would take. Something that makes me sad is the realization that about 40% of children in the United States live below the poverty level. How can that be? Very sad indeed. And what makes me glad? Well, that you're here right now paying attention to this step up and step out video, because you are putting yourself in a position to play full out in the game of your own life. Okay, now step number two. When you have identified a couple things that make you mad, sad, or glad, what you then do, and you can use this representation if you like, or make your own list. There is a handout that you can print out below this video to get these diagrams for you, is to identify a couple of action steps that you could take personally in order to address those things that make you mad, sad, or glad. So for example, being mad about how we treat our veterans, one of the ways I can take an action about that, and in fact I did it just yesterday on my radio show, was I was able to refer veterans who might be in a situation like that to my colleague, my friend Connie Gordon, who's an artist who works with veterans, or to Larry Broughton, who has a Vetrepreneur program where he teaches veterans entrepreneurial skills and gives them hope to move through their difficult situation. So those are a couple of actions I could take about what makes me mad. And notice that I'm using other people who already are doing things. So I'm helping them help the veterans. So there's a ripple effect, a chain effect of things that can be done that empowers everyone along the way. Now, in terms of what makes me sad, in terms of the poverty levels, I, for example, teach thinking, creativity skills to children in my neighborhood. And this will then empower them to change how they think about their own circumstance and maybe change the destiny of their family and certainly their own lives. And then what makes me glad about you being here? Well, I'm going to be setting up a Facebook fan page called Step Up and Step Out, and I'll be welcoming you there to hear your stories about what makes you mad, sad, or glad, and find out about the ripple effect that you've started. So that's step number 2, and in fact step number 3. Because step 1 is identify what makes you mad, sad, or glad. Step 2 is notice what actions you could take yourself or in support of other people. And step number 3 is actually to take those steps. Now, step number 4 expands the ripple effect, because I'm challenging you not only to try this approach for 5 days yourself. Look for at least 5 things you can take action on in the next 5 days. But I'd like you to speak to one person a day and share the mad, sad, and glad approach with them and see what they can set underway in terms of their own ripple effect. And then we'll have multiple ripple effects spreading out and for being a force for good in the world. So that's step number 4. Share with at least one other person across those 5 days, or with groups of people, to expand the multiplier effect of the ripples. And then step number 5 is a little bit of a surprise. Step number 5 is start paying attention to those issues that you repeatedly are mad, sad, or glad about, or you find yourself stepping in and taking action on. Because what's going to happen over time is that you will identify and develop a skill set, maybe even become an authority or an expert in that area, the go-to person that people then look to help out in that circumstance. And this will benefit your life personally and also could lead to certain professional developments in your future. So those are the 5 steps of the Step Up and Step Out approach to regaining your power and energizing your life, because you bridge the gap between your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Now the challenge is this. For the next 5 days, I would invite you to take each of the steps. Step number 1, notice what makes you mad, sad, or glad. Step number 2, think about what types of actions you could take yourself or in support of others already doing things about those issues. Step number 3, take that action yourself or in support of someone else. Step number 4, share with at least one other person across those 5 days, and preferably groups or leaders who in turn can share with the groups, so that you set off an amazing ripple impact effect. And number 5, start paying attention to the habitual activities that you take part in or you respond to, and develop a body of skills in an area of expertise or authority, and become known as a creative problem solver in this area. So here's your challenge. I invite you to step up to your highest convictions. You'll be developing your leadership abilities, your capabilities for expanding compassion, your own communication abilities, and displaying a sense of courage. And I love that the French version or word for courage comes from the word heart, because you're really putting your heart into what you're doing. It's that connection of your mind and your heart and your actions. Okay? Then what I want you to do is identify what makes you mad, sad, or glad at least over 5 days to begin to develop that habit and get your antennas ready to notice it. And eventually you won't even need to write things down. You'll just respond automatically. And then, of course, share with at least one other person across those 5 days, and then join us on the Step Up and Step Out Facebook fan page to share your issues, your actions, and what kind of ripple effect you are making when you step up and step out to be the major player in the game of your life. This is Donna Kim Brand, thanking you so much for being here and wishing you happy impact.